I've said it before and I will say it again. Nintendo's 2020 has been a pretty strange year. Obviously, there were some titles that released in the first half of the year. You had some Wii U ports, you had Wii ports, and of course you had games like Animal Crossing, which were extremely successful for Nintendo. But beyond that, things started to get very, very quiet. We haven't gotten a full-on Nintendo Direct. Games like Paper Mario: The Origami King, a game that you would think Nintendo would want to hype up a lot, just appeared out of nowhere. And granted, it was a very good game, but beyond that, we didn't know anything about what Nintendo was going to do for the rest of 2020. Now, of course, there are reasons as to why that is the case. The main one being, well, real world situations. And yes, we will always say real world situations on this channel. But obviously, this sort of showed a flaw with Nintendo's development cycle, showing that work from home conditions in Japan aren't quite up to snuff with how Nintendo needs them to be. I mean, Nintendo still uses fax machines in their home office, so it might be time for a little bit of an infrastructure upgrade if you're going to have to work from home in the future. But a lot of people have been wondering, well, what is the rest of 2020 looking like for Nintendo? With the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X coming up, what is Nintendo going to do with the Nintendo Switch in order to stay relevant in the console war and keep sales and game sales successful, but more importantly, keep fans happy? Well, over the past 24 hours, we've actually seen a couple different ways that Nintendo is going to do things going on in the future. The first announcement was, of course, for a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate update. Now, this updated the game to version 8.1, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is obviously a very, very popular game. It's one of the best-selling games on the Nintendo Switch, but this update was actually very interesting. You usually have a bit of a leeway up to the announcement and the release of the update, but this one just appeared out of nowhere. And the main thing that this update focused on was actually improving online functionality for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, meaning that you could play the game online and it actually plays a lot better than it used to. It's kind of strange that it took this long for Nintendo to sort of address that situation, but better late than never. But the real key addition to this update was the fact that a brand new stage was included for absolutely free with no sort of hoopla or anything involved with it. The stage is, of course, Small Battlefield. Now, granted, this is based on the main Battlefield stage and it's just a smaller version of it, but still, this was a free stage that seemingly came out of nowhere and is now available for anyone with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Of course, there's going to be subsequent DLC characters for the game as well, which we'll probably start to learn about towards the tail end of 2020. But it's nice to see Nintendo including a free update to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that actually adds in a little bit more content and improves the online code of the game without any sort of fanfare going on around about it. It just appeared out of nowhere. Here it is, take it and then download it. But obviously, over the past 24 hours, the more interesting announcement was that Nintendo actually announced a first-party game for the Nintendo Switch that's coming out in 2020. They had a trailer for it, they gave you details about it and everything, and it's like, wow, they do still make video games. They do know how to make video games, and we're actually getting video games for the Switch in 2020. And that game is, of course, Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Yes, yet another Wii U port is coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, Pikmin 3 is a game that we have heard was coming to the Nintendo Switch for a very, very long time. But now it's finally been confirmed that Pikmin 3 Deluxe will be hitting the Nintendo Switch on October 30th. And what I like about Pikmin 3 Deluxe is it's not just something like New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, where they just put the word Deluxe at the end of the game and that's what you get, and it's pretty much just the Wii U version of the game. And while yes, it is the Wii U version of the game, there is additional content that's being added in as well. There's going to be some new features in the game, such as multiple difficulty levels, so you can adjust the difficulty to your liking. There's lock-on targeting as well, and there's actually new side story missions featuring both Olimar and Louie. And the new story DLC actually includes events that happen before and after the main story from the perspective of Olimar and Louie, so it pretty much gives you some more story content and some more story missions to do within the game of Pikmin 3. And all of the DLC from the original game of Pikmin 3 will be included in Pikmin 3 Deluxe, so really this is actually a deluxe version of the game. You're adding in content, you're adding in things like different difficulty modes. The new story stuff is going to be very cool for fans of Pikmin 3, and of course the fact that all of the DLC from the previous game is now going to be in this version of the game, it really makes it a good value. Now, speaking of value, of course, it is a first-party Nintendo game, so you know what the price is going to be. It is going to be a full $60 game, but honestly, I don't mind that all that much with this title because of the fact that they are, like I said, adding in additional content. If you're adding in stuff, I think the game is worth a full $60, whereas something like New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe probably should have been a $40 game when it released. So Nintendo finally has announced a 2020 game for the Nintendo Switch, and while it is a game that released on the Wii U, at least it's a game that you could play and pick up on your Nintendo Switch. Honestly, I never picked up Pikmin 3 because I didn't really care for Pikmin 1 and 2 all that much, but I might end up checking out this game just so I'll have something to play on my Nintendo Switch. But what does this really say for the rest of the year when it comes to Nintendo? One of the things we talked about very recently on the channel was, of course, the fact that there's a Nintendo Direct rumor floating around that a Nintendo Direct presentation will be happening sometime between August 11th and August 22nd. And a lot of people were like, well, this is clickbait, this is clickbait. And it's like, Jeff Grubb has been right about every Nintendo Direct presentation since there has been talks and rumors of Nintendo Directs. He was the one that said there was going to be a Direct in March, and there was a Direct in March. You gotta remember, there are different degrees of Nintendo Directs, and Nintendo seems to be just adding in different types of Nintendo Directs. You have Indie World presentations, you now have third-party partner presentations, you have Nintendo Mini Directs, and of course you have the full-on Nintendo Direct with a full-on showcase. Now I know what you're saying to yourself, well, wouldn't Pikmin 3 Deluxe have been in that Nintendo Direct if it is indeed happening between August 11th and August 22nd? And yeah, it could have been, but I think it sort of depends on what sort of Nintendo Direct Nintendo is planning to do if they are doing one in the month of August. If it's a full-on Nintendo Direct, then yes, it could have been easily put in there, but maybe there's some other stuff that they want to talk about for 2020 and 2021, because the more that time goes on, the more likely that some of these Direct announcements and game announcements are going to be for the 2021 release window. Now, if it's a third-party Nintendo Direct, it would make no sense for Pikmin 3 to be in there because Pikmin 3 Deluxe is obviously a first-party Nintendo title, and Nintendo did say that there would be more third-party Nintendo Direct partner presentations happening in 2020. If it's a game-specific Nintendo Direct, like, well, that Super Mario 35th anniversary stuff, then no, they wouldn't have put Pikmin in that predicament because it wouldn't have really made sense. I think it all just sort of boils down to what sort of Nintendo Direct Nintendo is planning to do next. So it really boils down to what sort of Nintendo Direct Nintendo is planning to do with their next Nintendo Direct. Hopefully it is between August 11th and August 22nd, because while an announcement like Pikmin 3 Deluxe is pretty cool, you're pretty much setting yourself up for a very quiet year for the rest of the year if this is the only thing you have to talk about. Obviously, nothing is coming out in August from Nintendo that we know about. I guess that could change at any point in time. You have nothing for the month of September when it comes to first-party games that's been currently announced, and Pikmin 3 Deluxe isn't coming out until the end of October at October 30th. So is Nintendo really going to have nothing between the month of July and the end of October as far as first-party releases? That's kind of strange to me. I do think you will get some sort of announcement as a September game, and I think it's going to be this Super Mario 35th anniversary stuff. I still believe that this is an actual thing. I haven't heard any sort of reason otherwise as to why this wouldn't be happening, and it just sort of makes sense. It would bolster the Nintendo Switch's lineup for the rest of 2020. Now, the real question is Nintendo going to have anything new as far as games coming out in 2020, as in games that haven't released on other platforms or aren't enhanced versions of games that we have already seen on other platforms? And that's kind of the big mystery. Obviously, Nintendo did not expect 2020 to go the way it went as far as real-world situations are concerned. So did they sort of screw the pooch as far as 2020 is concerned with the rest of the year? If games like Super Mario 35th Anniversary Edition and Pikmin 3 Deluxe are the only first-party Nintendo games that we're going to see in 2020 for the rest of the year, will that sort of hurt the Nintendo Switch's momentum? I really don't think so, because Super Mario 35th Anniversary is going to be a very big deal. A game like Pikmin 3 Deluxe, I really feel like this is just sort of fan service for the GameCube era fans who really enjoyed the Pikmin franchise, even though, well, I really wasn't one of them. But I'm going to pick up Pikmin 3 Deluxe because I am curious to see if maybe my tastes have changed over the years, and maybe now I am a Pikmin fan. But obviously, it's been a very interesting 24 hours for Nintendo as a company. So yeah, Nintendo's strange 2020 seems to be just going on in full effect, and who knows what game will be announced next with a release date. You know, maybe they'll even stealth drop a game or something like that. I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibility for Nintendo, because really everything's off the table with this year, and that kind of makes it a bit exciting, I feel. So let me know in the comments section down below what you think of everything. Was the Smash Brothers update something cool and that you were looking forward to? What do you think about Pikmin 3 Deluxe finally coming to the Nintendo Switch? Is this sort of hinting that Pikmin 4 could be a 2021 game? And what do you think about the rest of the year from Nintendo? Would games like Super Mario 35th Anniversary and Pikmin 3 Deluxe be enough for first-party titles, or are you hoping for some newer stuff? Are you hoping for more stuff from Nintendo and Nintendo Directs? Do you expect to see any of them? Are they just going to do stealth game drop announcements? Are they going to do a Direct Mini, a game-focused Nintendo Direct. There's almost like too many Nintendo Directs now, to the point of where they need to just call a Nintendo Direct like a mainline Nintendo Direct, something completely different. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. I am sorry that this video took a while to get up. My internet has been out all morning because of the tropical storm that came through here, but hopefully this video will be up at a timely fashion so you guys are actually interested in this news. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.